Welcome to the Irish Pagan School podcast. Your hosts are authors and co-founders of the Irish Pagan School here in County Waterford, Ireland, Laura O'Brien and Jon O'Sullivan. Fáilte.
How important is the summer solstice to Irish paganism? Well, Dagdi Bugus Fáilte. Hi, hello, and welcome. Jon O'Sullivan, the Irish Pagan School. And it is something worth considering because as we record this video for you today, we are approaching summer solstice here in Ireland. Now, when is the summer solstice? It's going to be something we have to talk about for sure, because what a solstice really is, it's a longest day. It's summer solstice is where the day is at its longest. Winter solstice is when the day is at its shortest. And then, of course, we have the equinoxes where day and night are equidistant or equally calculated roughly. So when the summer solstice lands, we have to thank all of those people who altered and shifted our current calendar, because the year, as we calculated, is not 365 days long. It's 360.25 days long, which is why we have that extra day every 4 years, leap years. So this calculation means that the solstice, the astronomical event where the length of the summer day is the longest, falls at the moment most commonly between the 20th and the 22nd of June. So that's when in Ireland, in the Northern Hemisphere, you can expect to find the longest day. Now, because of the way the hemispheres work on our lovely little globe, or ellipse, because it's technically a little bit elliptical, the Southern Hemisphere has the alternate kind of calculation and timeframes. So I am just speaking for the Northern Hemisphere. So can we say for sure that there has been an ancient practice of sun worship or solar recognition in Ireland? Well, oddly enough, yes, we can. All we have to do is look at the archaeology of the landscape of Ireland and the many, many tombs, passage tombs, and like dolmens around that have some form of alignment with celestial bodies. Of course, most famously, there's Newgrange with the winter solstice, but there are other passage tombs around which align with the summer solstice. They are, for the most part, crumbled down or just open now because they have been excavated or weren't preserved as Newgrange was. But there's still an alignment with the sun on the summer solstice. So this means that our ancient ancestors building these passage tombs had some element of recognition of the importance of the return of the sun or the longevity of sunlight in our country of Ireland. Now, how has that come down to us in importance in Irish paganism? Hard to say for sure, because the pagan practice was eradicated pretty much in Ireland. There is no extended tradition. There is no secret handshake bloodline, unending druid culture that existed or was carried out of Ireland and preserved anywhere else in the world. No, we were full on abused and colonized by our next door neighbors, the Britons. Or well, I was told I'm not going to refer to it as Great Britain anymore. So the UK, the hopefully no longer United of Kingdoms. Anyway, I'll park my perspectives there because get back on track, Jon. Solstice. When we look at solstice kind of activity, then as a pagan, we need to look not at ancient kind of tomes or ancient kind of practices or bloodline practices because those don't exist. But that doesn't mean there isn't carried down traditions culturally speaking, and that is where we find our gold mine. So the summer solstice, if we're looking for more relevant or more close kind of exploration of that, we need to look at what's known as midsummer or the midsummer celebrations in Ireland. Of course, thanks Catholicism, it's also linked with St. John. So it's St. John's Day or St. John's Eve because, of course, how do you deal with pagans in a particular place? Throw a saint on it, or throw a Mary on it, or slap a bit of Jesus on it, and then call it Christian. But what we can find, if we go to one of the most amazing resources that we have, duchas.ie, that is duchas.ie, and type in midsummer, you can do a search for that, or St. John's Festival, you can do a search for that, and it will come up with whole wealth of practices, a whole wealth of traditional cultural practices that are still in places of this Ireland practiced today. Things you will find most commonly referred to is communal fires. It's said that people would gather from themselves wood, dry sticks, and like turf collaboratively from the neighborhood. They would have their own fires, but there would also be a collaborative fire known as a bonfire now. But the origins of bonfire was that some part of that fire would have an offering made into it of bones, and the bones would be burned. The ashes of the fires would then be taken and brought around the fields, or kids would be sent out with the embers or ashes on a stick to run around the fields where they're growing crop in order to ensure good harvests, or that the luck would be on the field. And of course, even when you talk about the luck will be on it, or the harvest will be good, or to ensure a bit of good harvest, it's sympathetic magic. As I have learned from my partner Laura, who did a really, really great resource, which I will link in the description below for this video. So, honoring the solstice, there are a number of different practices to do. It is about shifts in energy. It is about solar alignment, acknowledging the ancestral elements of that and the recognition of the ancestral elements of that, but then also not discounting the cultural practices just because it's done now and isn't something that was claimed from a dusty book doesn't mean it doesn't have its roots in older practices. And if you were to look into trying to celebrate something on a solstice yourself, you do need to look at those traditions and practices because it's not just make it up and do it yourself. If you can tap into those traditions and practices, then you are engaging with ancestral energy that has been built over generations doing the same thing at the same time. And if you're in any way a believer in magic practices or energy practices or even sympathetic associations, doing the same thing that generations have done at the same time can and does have an impact and have an effect on how you approach your spirituality and your engagements. So, creating a bonfire, but it's not just I'm going to burn some shit. It's intentionally gathering pieces from your community that you can burn, engage with the neighbors, engage with like your community if you have one locally, and offer to bring pieces together to burn. Shedding off of stuff that doesn't serve, but also then coming with an intention of protection, an intention of energizing your work. And if you can, of course, put bones in it, which is why it's called a bonfire or a bonfire. So there's a lot of resources. I'm not going to kind of relive the entire kind of content for you because someone did it better than me. And that someone is Laura, and the resource is connected down below. But to answer the question that we started with, yes, the solstices and equinoxes are very significant to our ancient ancestors here in Ireland, and so should be considered significant to your Irish pagan practice. So definitely click the links below to the blog, catch up more information. Laura has detailed it right the way out for exactly the kind of things you should be looking to do, exactly the kind of energy you want to be bringing. There's almost a step by step build your own kind of build your own um summer solstice practice right there in this content. If you'd like to know more about it, more about all of our stuff at the Irish Pagan School, go to irishpagan.school/free. And again, thank you very much for being here. Look after yourself. And until next time, take care. Slán. Goodbye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a positive review in your podcast listener. Then head over to irishpaganschool.com and enroll in one of our free or paid courses. Slán go fóill, and we will see you next time.